Well, I just finished up my first year at Norco College, and I was sitting down thinking a little bit about what that first year was like. And first of all, I thought it was great. It was really one of the highlights of my professional career, really. I was thinking, I didn't even know any of you about a year ago. And I mean, literally, I didn't know who you were. You didn't know who I was. And now, just a year later, it's hard for me even to imagine us not being on a team together and working on all these things, which I think is a really great sign of the year that we had last year. As I look back on the year, a bunch of partnerships and opportunities that we took advantage of really come to mind. We started building on the Veterans Center. We got a good partnership going with the prison, CRC. Started working on a partnership with the Navy, and several things are coming out of that. We've always had good relationship and partnerships with our Corona Norco Unified School District, but we're expanding that a little bit, reaching out to more high schools in a deeper and deeper way. And then, of course, when I got here, one of the great projects that was going on already was the Completion Initiative, and we continued to build around that idea throughout the year. As I was going through the whole year, and I'm sure you were doing the same thing with me, we were getting to know each other, and I was trying to get a sense of what our strengths and what our weaknesses are. You were getting a sense of what my strengths and weaknesses are, so we can blend all these together nicely. And I'd have to say, there's a long list of strengths, but the number one thing that jumps out to me when I think about a year of assessing strengths and weaknesses, the number one strength here is the people. We've got some very, very talented people working at Norco College. I feel really so privileged to be working with everybody here. And the second part of that is the people are very talented, but they also really know how to work together. That's something I think that's very, very unique to Norco College. We've got this great community. We're able to argue and disagree, but still stay together and work on really great projects. That's why this place has been really such a model in so many areas for the rest of the state. Now, as I start thinking about the coming year, there are a lot of things that we're going to do. We're going to all work ourselves into exhaustion again. I'm sure that's going to happen. But the theme that I'm thinking about for 2018 is the idea of building all of our work around the idea of the student journey. I'd like all of us, I'd like you to start thinking about how does your work help make a student journey visible, help students move through their journey more successfully. You can think of it as steps through a journey. You can think of it as a pathway and how we're going to provide support. Sometimes that's called a guided pathway. You can think of it as a life cycle of the student, whatever. But the point is, I'd like you to start thinking about the work that you do and how it can help sustain students moving through this pathway. Now, the reason I think we really need to focus on that is because of the particular students that we're working with. We work with students, and this is why I love working in community colleges. This is why I've devoted my entire career to community colleges. We work with students that come from backgrounds where the academic odds are stacked against them. Right? We work with a lot of students that come from low and modest income backgrounds. We work with students that come from recent immigrant histories. We have students that come from all different race and ethnicity groups. We work with students that have all kinds of issues that have been in their lives for whatever reasons. They come from historically underserved communities. They come from communities that have been discriminated against. They come from families where nobody in their entire family went to college. That's not exclusively, but that's mostly what we're working with. For those students to be successful, they need to know what the pathway is that they need to take to be successful. They need to know that you enroll, then you pick a school, then you pick a program, then you build an education plan around that program, you persist on that program, you exercise deep learning, and then you finish your program, you transfer, you apply for a job. That entire pathway is something that we need to make explicitly clear to our students. The reason we need to do that is most of our students do not have somebody at home that can help make that. explicitly clear for them. They have people at home that love them. They have people at home that care deeply about them. But they have people at home that have never been through a college experience, and so they can't tell the students what that pathway is like. They need us. They need you. They need me to really make that overt and clear in their lives. And one of the things we need to do around that or one of the things we need to do to make that manifest is by building our work deliberately around that. So one thing that's going to happen this year, I think, I'm just one guy right now on the ISPC, but I'm going to suggest that ISPC starts thinking about building a strategic plan with this kind of built into the strategic plan, thinking about a pathway through it. So that's going to be a dialogue that happens this semester. And then I'd also like all of us to start thinking about how we structure our own programs, our own services around this idea of a pathway. So let me give you a couple of concrete examples. In academic affairs, we've already started talking about schools. We need to continue this conversation and start thinking about how do we reorganize ourselves around these schools? How do we structure our disciplines around those schools and our people around those schools? Marketing, for example. We need to stop just thinking about marketing as something that recruits students and advertises the college. We need to think of it as something where we advertise to students to come to the college, we advertise students to enroll in a school, we advertise students to get into a program, we advertise to students and market to students to help them move through. Build our marketing plan around that pathway. Budgeting. We often think of budgeting as this abstraction. We need to look at our budget and see how it fits across. Are we spending money on enrollment? Are we spending enough there? Are we spending money on the other parts of the pathway as we move through there? Think of landscaping and hardscaping, for example. Very often we don't think of landscaping as something that's part of student success, something that will help students move through we need to think of it that way. I don't know how to do that, but that's something that the folks in business services need to really struggle with. How can we build a space, build architecture, build landscaping, build hardscaping that brings students in, keeps them on campus, gets them to collect with each other, and those types of things? Puente program. How are we going to incorporate the Puente always works with students through this pathway. How are we going to adopt this language as we move through the program? And there's 100 other programs on campus that need to be thinking about how you build your work around this kind of idea of a pathway. The reason we need to do this, I mentioned it earlier, but I want to repeat it to you, is we have students that are struggling, right? If you look at the last 4 years, you track the students from the last 4 years, only about 15% of our students are getting all the way through that pathway. None of us want that number to stay at 15%. We've got to figure out a way to help students be more successful. And one of the ways that we do that is by being clear and specific and overt with our students about the steps they need to take to move through the process to be successful, and then build this entire culture in the campus so that they know what they need to do to be successful, that we celebrate where they are and encourage them to move from the one step to the next until they finish and end up having a successful experience at Norco College. I'm very excited about the last year we had, 2017, and I'm even more excited about what's coming up in 2018.